For decades, viewers thought that the adventures of the Starship Enterprise were all about friendship, unity, and bravery. But behind the glossy shows, the egos clashed, tensions simmered, and tempers got the best of the cast at times and drove them to the brink of explosion. William Shatner, the actor who embodied Captain Kirk, was also at the center of the glory as well as the drama. Now in his advanced years, he tells it like it was during those times, letting out a reality so far removed from the daring-do exploits that took the world's imagination. A childhood filled with drama. William Shatner's life started in Montreal, Canada on March 22, 1931, amidst a record-breaking snowstorm. The roads were impassable, and his mother had no choice but to deliver him at home. From a young age, his life had a quality of unpredictability and drama, as if fate was rehearsing him for a career on stage. At the age of 8, Shatner was already going to a children's acting school, taught by a well-known Canadian actress. At the age of 10, he was already working professionally as an actor in radio plays like The Magic Flute for CBC. Later, he was complimented on acting Tom Sawyer in a company stage production in which critics were amazed by his stage presence. Though precocious, Shatner's schooling was troubled. At McGill University in 1948, he pursued economics, a pragmatic course to satisfy his parents, but never did belong in classrooms. He confessed many years later that he saw class infrequently, discovering his true delight in the campus theater. By 1950, he had co-written and acted in a student production that was such a hit, it caught the eye of CBC producers. It was his TV debut, a small sampling of things to come. In 1956, Shatner made his most ambitious move yet. He left for New York City to pursue acting full-time. His Broadway premiere was in Tamburlaine the Great, which ran just 20 performances. Although the show wasn't successful, the experience was instrumental. A young Canadian without formal training had reached the stage of New York. That was the platform from where Shatner started creating a resume on American television throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s. He starred in shows such as Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Defenders, and The Outer Limits. But it was his 2 appearances on The Twilight Zone, particularly the 1963 Nightmare at 20,000 feet, which demonstrated his talent for playing characters falling apart under stress. This ability to play tension and hardly contain panic would later become a key part of his most celebrated role, becoming Captain Kirk. By 1965, William Shatner was consistently working in television, but there was no indication he was to become involved with the role that would dominate his life. Star Trek already had a captain at that point, named Christopher Pike. Jeffrey Hunter was the actor who played him in the original pilot called The Cage. NBC executives hated it, and they said the show was too slow and intellectual. Rather than killing the concept, they took an odd approach. They commissioned a second pilot. Hunter declined to return, allegedly to concentrate on films, although Shatner subsequently suggested that more profound differences lay behind his leaving. With the part unexpectedly open, producers went to Shatner. He was presented with the rejected pilot, and although he was impressed by the production values, he felt that the performances were far too rigid. He felt that the captain required a warmer, lighter hand. When Shatner took over as James T. Kirk in 1966, he reinvented the character as commanding yet accessible. He wished to have Kirk be a seeker of the unknown, an eager explorer, but also comfortable enough to banter with his crew. Instead of barking rigid commands, Kirk could lean toward a helmsman and casually say, "Take us left, George." This sense of ease made him different from the typical military archetypes on television at the time. To shape Kirk's personality, Shatner drew on 2 inspirations. One was Horatio Hornblower, the naval hero known for intelligence and bravery. The second was Alexander the Great, a part Shatner himself had previously played in a canceled 1963 TV pilot. He applied Alexander's combination of charisma and command to Kirk. The injection of humor, which Shatner insisted on, further mellowed the edges. Unlike most science fiction protagonists, Kirk was not simply an icy strategist. He was a person people could laugh with and believe. The risk paid off. When Star Trek began broadcasting in September of 1966, Kirk immediately became a star. The man represented fearlessness and hope in a tumultuous decade, and viewers identified with his unshakable self-assurance. But while audiences embraced the show, behind the cameras things were anything but peaceful. To Shatner, taking command was not just commanding the imaginary crew of the Enterprise. It also involved dealing with off-world rivalries that were going to dismantle the cast. Brawls, feuds, and sabotage. Viewers saw cooperation on the screen, but behind the scenes of Star Trek, things were frequently uncontrolled. William Shatner's drive, his endless rewrites, and his desire to overshadow everyone else caused friction that at times broke into outright battles. What the fans did not know at the time was that the friendships they saw on the screen were marred by jealousy and bitterness just a short distance in front of the cameras. One early combustible moment occurred during the production of The Man Trap in September of 1966. Leonard Nimoy, whose Star Trek character Spock was surprisingly becoming a hit, clashed with Shatner. Convinced Nimoy was hogging the spotlight, Shatner intentionally strayed into Nimoy's shots, not just once, but 17 times, requiring expensive retakes. The director seethed, and Nimoy threatened to quit if it persisted. It was one of the first breaks in the veneer of camaraderie. Disagreements weren't restricted to silly ego clashes. In March 1968, filming The Paradise Syndrome, Shatner and Nimoy burst into heated disagreement about how Captain Kirk's amnesia was to be staged. Shatner demanded drama and intensity, while Nimoy insisted on subtlety. The standoff held things up for hours until creator Gene Roddenberry stepped in to soothe both men. Writers were similarly frustrated. In The Trouble with Tribbles in 1967, Shatner and Nimoy rewrote dialogue for 14 consecutive hours, cutting lines from other characters along the way. Cast members half-jokingly called the show the Shatner-Nimoy Show by the third season. Even pioneering moments were not without stress. The script for 1968's Plato's Stepchildren dictated an interracial kiss between Kirk, a daring move for American TV. Shatner allegedly feared reaction from viewers and demanded a separate version without the kiss. Nichols did believe in the significance of the scene, though, and collaborated with Shatner to disrupt each non-kiss take, compelling the studio to air the milestone. Aside from the creative conflicts, the exhausting schedule fueled the flames. Some episodes took 16 to 22 hours to shoot, which made cast members and crew exhausted. In October of 1968 on the Tholian Web, Shatner himself collapsed after being on set for 18 hours, tossing his script aside in frustration and refusing to go on until he was allowed to rest. Even Captain of the Enterprise could not avoid the relentless